Alrighty lads, you're with Budget Monk and welcome to a new video on the topic of perhaps the greatest one province miner in the game, the nation in which I chose to embark upon one of the hardest challenges I've ever attempted to achieve, which is to convert the entire world to Norse religion and Norse culture. And that nation is the absolute goat land, the goat of one province miners, Gotland. That's right, and you can see here at 14 years into this game, I have formed Denmark. That is the route at which this guide is going to suggest you go, as well as having good diplomacy, permanent modifiers that we would not have if we began as the nation of Denmark, as well as historical friendship status with our subjects. And at this stage of the game, guys, zero aggressive expansion. Absolutely massive. And if you guys want to see how to emulate this as an OPM and become a great power within a few short years, follow this guide beginning with estates. So Gotland has something completely unique called Curtail the Estates. If we have 40 crown land, 60 loyalty on our estates, and they have less than 50 influence, then you get to pass this mission, giving maximum absolutism for the entire game, no matter which tag you form, and all estate influence reduced by 10%. So we need to seize crown land at least one more time, as you can see, and we want to get our equilibrium up. No monarch points this time. We're going to be going for oversight of the clergy, and we're going to be taking the monopoly. Monopoly is key, guys. It gives you influence. It gives you loyalty, excuse me, at the cost of 0 influence. We also take religious diplomats, crucial for our run and our strategy here. Nobility is going to be right of council and supremacy of the crown. The supremacy of the crown gives you loyalty to all other estates, so the clergy is above 60, as you can see. Now, you'll notice that the influence is already too high on the nobility. Just keep in mind that about 10 years into the game here, we're going to be taking Curtail the Noble privileges, which you can switch out later if you like. But as you can see, it gives you increased tax and reduced nobility influence. So this is the most clean manner in which you can complete this mission. Otherwise, we would not have the loyalty equilibrium. Okay, with that being said, we're going to jump into the prestige here, the free enterprise, and that barely gets our equilibrium up, while also having our influence low. With that being said, a lot of these you can see here, guys, they give you 5 equilibrium at the cost of 5 influence, which you could potentially take, including indebted to the burghers. We could take that just for the equilibrium if it helps speed things up, and then simply pay off our loans, because we're going to be very affluent, as you see here, once the game gets going. So estates are done for now, right? Just to reiterate, we wait 5 years, seize land again, and then we wait for the equilibrium to get over 60. We want to be very careful when passing these random events involving the estates. Read them very closely, but just make sure you're managing your influence to the best of your ability. Next up, let's focus on actually playing the game and winning the initial wars here. So we're focused on this mission, the enemy of my enemy. So what we need to do is have 75 relations with any of his rivals or enemies, as you can see, as long as we're at peace. So we will instantly ally a nation who has 75 relations as long as they are rivals or enemies of Denmark. So after popping the religious diplomats, you can see that we only need to improve relations for about 3 months. In this case, I'm going to choose Scotland and Poland. I will throw it out there that if you're not comfortable, you do potentially want to, re-roll the game a few times to make sure Denmark has some decent enemies. And notice that I'm not turning down my army maintenance. The reason is because Denmark, who allied Lithuania, yikes, I hope that Poland gets I hope he disappears Lithuania. That's pretty nasty. It's because he starts with a casus belli against you, and you have to survive the first 3 months of the game here, improving relations without him attacking you. So you do not want to turn any maintenance down, as even on very hard, he will typically ramp up a little bit before attacking you. You should be able to survive those first 3 months. We're now at 50 relations, as you can see. What we're going to do is retract our diplomats. One of the reasons we took prestige from the estates is we're going to take 2 prestige hits, starting with a scornful insult. So 3 months into the game, you should be at 50 relations, and the scornful insult is going to put us up to 75, passing the enemy of my enemy, giving us an incredibly cheap advisor, which we will take, and allying 2 of his enemies. Very nice. At this stage, we're safe. We're going to turn our maintenance down. And you begin with a 63-year-old monarch, and we actually fall to a union on rule of death, which means as soon as we pass this mission and they are allied, we're going to use the rest of our prestige to introduce an heir, and what a superb heir that is in this case. And now we take a royal marriage and we do it in precisely that order. All right? If you mess that up, it's basically going to ruin the game. Okay, in this case, we have, geez, look at these rolls. We have a queen regent and an heir set up that's perfect. If you did not have a queen regent, you are going to want to look for a queen regent, potentially just royal marriage whoever you can, guys, just to get a queen regent, just to avoid a potential regency here. Even if you have to go over your relations, the royal marriage relations will break when this ruler dies. Speaking of which, he's old. We're going to make him a general now that we're set up nicely. That can actually allow us to drill the stack if we like. It's always economical to drill when your force limit is very low, guys. You get a lot of professionalism for that. Very nice. And we're compelling him to pass away because fairly soon into the game, we're going to have personal unions. The last thing you want is to have personal unions when you have a royal death directly on the horizon. Now that that's done, guys, we pulled some good diplomacy. We're moving on to the Emperor's Treasury mission, which is to gain 100 relations with the Emperor, and look at the War of the Crown mission, which is to simply have a casus belli against Denmark. Okay, so let's let the clock tick on a little bit here to the 9th. Build a spy network, and I'm going to go ahead and just build a few ships, guys, just 2 transports, which deplete our sailors a little bit, and delete these light ships, which return a few sailors. Then I'm going to do 1 more galley. So we do want to be building our fleet up. All right, after a short, just only a couple months, guys, Lithuania does fall under Poland, so he swings to our side. Very, very nice. Alrighty, after making our claim against Denmark, against the one province we can, we're going to reissue a command with this diplomat. And what I highly recommend is simply currying with Poland. So we want to have 10 favors with both our allies to potentially call them to arms. And the casus belli is this mission completed, which gives us the restoration of the Union against Denmark. But somewhat more importantly, it gives us naval morale as well. So when we go to war against Denmark, even if his subjects have a liberty desire, guys, they do actually participate with their navies. It's kind of like a bug almost. We're just going to go ahead and put down the dev cost reduction here, not waiting on anything. And yes, it does not feel great for monarch points, guys, but all of the plays that we make here do not cost us any monarch points, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and do that, completing the agenda and this mission. Now, if you read this closely, guys, it gives you a rank 2 trade center, but you can see Gotland gets expanded port of Visby for 25 years, increasing the trade value, ship repair time, and local ship building time. This is the crucial one, which is absolutely juicy. So we want to complete that relatively early. And now ships construct incredibly quickly. You can see galleys pump out at 73 days. My sailors are currently capped at 600. So we're going to do 1 more so that this is increasing over time. Alrighty, mission completed here, improving relations with the Emperor. Of course, sometimes there's an early Emperor death and you have to switch your improved relations target. But the event, a deal with the Emperor, you definitely want to ask for monetary support, guys. And you can see here that we gain a whopping 500 ducats, but not only that, we gain yearly tax income of 60. So that's divided by 12, as well as these other modifiers you can see. Absolutely insane. This is part of where Gotland starts feeling really OP. Now, you can see that this lasts for 20 years, but alternatively, the deal is that if we ever acquire Holstein, we have to return Holstein to the Empire, basically abandon it. I recommend just handing it off, okay? But I'm not sure if we'll get to that in this guide. In the meantime, we're absolutely juiced up and our income is going to go through the roof here. We're going to start hiring some nice advisors and recruiting at least our force limit and keep pumping out ships now. So I already know from experience, guys, we're going to want 10 units, 10, because I want to be able to potentially occupy this fort with somewhat ease. And with that being said, that means we're going to need at least 10 transports. So remember, we produce really quickly, and otherwise we're going to be spamming down galleys. So this is where you have an option to do something else with your diplomat. You can either curry with Scotland, guys, or another ally who's larger and produces favors more slowly, or you can begin working on these two missions, which are to obtain higher relations with his PUs. I'm going to begin doing the latter, and this is much more likely what you typically see from Denmark in terms of diplomacy. Now that Lithuania's disappeared, he's got the Teutonic Order, Verdun, and Lubeck. He's typically going to ally nations around this area. The next move, honestly, guys, is just to wait for favors to get some assistance in this upcoming war. Notice, look at that income, guys, 3.2. So we're going to use most of this money ramping up and up and up. Keep in mind that your biggest limitation is your sailors. The next stop is our next sea's land. 5 years into the game, you can see we already have the equilibrium up. All right, the king died, guys, which is obviously very predictable. Luckily, as Gotland, you get that stab for free, so our stability is still at 0, and we gain 20 prestige for free. And I just want to throw it out there, guys, that you do have a mission involving your legitimacy all the way down here, so it can be a big bottleneck if I can find the appropriate one. There we go, 95 legitimacy. And I just want to talk about this mission, dynastic relations. So you begin with the same dynasty as Stettin and Woldcast, and the reward of this mission is something like just have relations with them, and you gain 10k manpower. What you'll see is that when you, by introducing and you lose that dynasty, this mission completely changes, and it gives you the reward of yearly legitimacy. That's why I just spoke about that, because we want to help get this back up, but also +2 reputation. And this can be absolutely crucial, guys, to potentially dismantling the Holy Roman Empire, you know, post this guide, if that's your play, or alternatively, becoming elected emperor, things like that, guys, +2 reputation. So you can potentially have the best reputation around. Other things you can do as the game goes on is support heir in Poland, which gives you monarch points when they become elected, as well as prestige and that crucial legitimacy we were talking about. It gives you legitimacy, guys. Otherwise, let's improve relations with Norway. I'm going to pop these missions right before we go to war with Denmark. Otherwise, it sees land. No bad guys spawn this time, because the estates are not mad. I've constructed my way up to 12 galleys, guys, and 10 regiments with 10 transports. I highly recommend, if you get this event, simply take this. This is a great event either way, but that's provided that your heir is on the throne. So if you get new champion of the joust, you can boost your legitimacy. Amazing. In my case, I can do this because our legitimacy will reset to that anyway. Beautiful. Wow, look at that. So that's classic monk being lucky when he's trying to make a guide. We're going to resort to turning everything on now, guys, because it's go time. So we're going to go ahead and pass these missions prior to declaring the war. Our PUs are going to be historical friends, and they're going to be absolutely over the moon happy with us. No issues there at all. Passing this one, guys, we're going to get historical friend with Norway and 2,000 sailors, which we desperately need. This, in a sense, is like our lifeblood here. We're going to go ahead and pass this mission, giving us the Union Casus Belli. But more importantly, as you'll see, because you can actually do this, what I'm about to show you with a regular claim, it gives you the naval morale and naval tradition and so on, which increases your morale. Otherwise, let's go ahead and declare the restoration of the Union Casus Belli, calling our friends to arms. And by taking this route with the missions, you can see that Norway and Sweden have 100% liberty desire. This is very hard difficulty, guys. And one of the things about very hard difficulty is all nations have increased army strength. So this is a way that we're really taking advantage of that in a sense. I'll just throw it out there that Moldova went under Hungary this game, just for people wondering. So you would often have Moldova as well in this war. But if we subtract the Swedish personal unions, at least from the land force limit, we definitely have the numbers advantage. And for the first time, we can do whatever we like with our diplomats. At the beginning of the month, guys, we do have naval quality bonuses. I'm just going to poke. We're over, and our sailors are going down here. The real goal is not even to win the war per se. It's to pass this mission, first of all, which is to occupy their capital. We need to occupy their capital. And the next objective is this mission, which we will have fulfilled the 3 here. And I'll break that down as it goes on. But in the meantime, if we take a look at our navy, Scotland brings in a whopping 5 heavies, guys, so he is no joke. He does help you. What we're going to want to do is separately piece each of the nations who are participating fleets here to usher our way into the capital.
5 minutes later.
And as of right now, guys, just depending on your capital, I do recommend building the odd ship. We're going well over the force limit, and it does become very expensive. But you can potentially, as you keep poking, win this war faster at a smoother rate by blockading the Teuton's coast, for example, and piecing them out. You guys know how it is. But in the meantime, we're being carried by Poland. That's what we want to see. Take their money where you can. And speaking of money, what you may wish to do as you begin to make occupations here and potentially separate peace people for their trade is to begin collecting in Lubeck, as that will generate more money for you.
A few moments later.
Just another separate piece here of Verdun in this case. Looks like Lubeck has finally been occupied. This is an interesting peace deal, of course, because they generate a lot of money. We can be taking trade power from Bremen and Hamburg. Very, very valuable. And war reparations themselves. Beautiful. And this is the moment at which that Denmark is, he's got no friends at sea. Hopefully you've poked enough that their ships are not fully repaired. They might be damaged a little bit, but let's keep going. Here's where we want to reduce the influence of the nobles, guys. It's kind of has to happen. You can switch that out later if you like. But we fulfill the requirements. As you guys know, we just need 60 loyalty on the estates, and then we can finally start dropping monarch points or whatever else we value. And I'm going to be a little bit risky here, guys, but I think it's time. Everything's coming together. I'm going to actually bring my own troops out here for the first time. This is a fort level 2. Perhaps we have the ships to, or the cannons to barrage that. We'll see here in a second. Just get a little repair tick and go. Beautiful. I'm going to be a little bit crazy here, guys. I'm going to assault this, trying to move this along. So the garrison was not full, as you can see. Otherwise, I wouldn't dare assault that. Beautiful. That is exactly what we want to see. And then I'm going to send in our superior siege general. I feel like the writing is on the wall and victory is ours. Alrighty, guys, their capital falls. Perfect. Lovely. We just pushed their fleet out, defeated them at sea, and we're going to continue sieging. The reason why is because we need 50 war score in the war. And this event gives you stability. It gives you 2 stability. So I recommend, if you can, we're going to go up to 1. That will put us at 3. It also reduces your war exhaustion by 10. Okay, so I'm waiting because our war exhaustion is going to be at 0 at 50 war score. There it is. I'm going to go ahead and pass this mission. We're going to pass this. As you can see, it gives his subjects more liberty desire, and it gives us reduced war exhaustion, 2 stability. You can see here, guys, that one requirement is you're at war with Denmark, war score is above 50, the capital is occupied by us, and the war has been going on for 3 years. And this is the requirement that we fulfill, and lo and behold, what happens when we execute the king? You can see Denmark loses stability, Denmark loses liberty desire, we gain 100 prestige, we gain the government rank, and you PU them. So that is disgusting, guys. I just want to say, guys, that a great thing you can do under this circumstance, we're essentially a 1 province minor, as you can see, but due to these subjects, we're considered to be a lot stronger, not that much stronger. And so therefore, you can see that Novgorod is a valid rival, for example. Well, Novgorod is the perfect nation. This is very typically the case. If we rival him, we could, right now, while we're just dicking around waiting, we could be doing a show strength war on him, guys. Of course, show strength, Casus Belli, or humiliate Casus Belli, giving you the ability to gain 100 to each monarch point and 50 power projection. Right there, boom. And there she is, guys. Under 50 influence, clear across the board here. Over 60 loyalty. Beautiful. Not even 20 years into the game, we gain yearly absolutism for the late game, and all influence of estates reduced by 10 to last us the rest of the game. Beautiful. And in this setup here, we're going to be up to 45 crown land. Let's make sure to use some of that. So otherwise, guys, the last thing you want to do is, of course, the back and control mission, which, just like I said, it requires legitimacy. Unfortunately, in my case, I was not graceful enough, lucky enough to receive legitimacy from events. But another thing you can do, of course, guys, for legitimacy is you can simply strengthen government. Very expensive, but for the purposes of this guide speeding things up, that's what I'm going to opt to do. Just for the purposes of this guide, we're going to make it happen as fast as possible. Back in control, and as you can see, we inherit Denmark and we have become Denmark. One last thing, guys, if Sweden declares their own independent war, you can see I've just set up a cheaty game here to demonstrate this to you. You can often defeat Denmark alongside the Swedish and their independence, because they will win at sea and so on, and you can jump on and achieve your mission and so on. Alternatively, Sweden may declare war throughout the course of your war against Denmark, which kind of sucks, right? Because if you pass the mission, it's like this, you now inherit the war. Uh-oh, seems terrible, right? Well, I've got good news. It's not so bad. Number one, you're very rich as Gotland, as you guys should know, because of the mission where you get money from the Emperor. And what you will notice is if you go to treaties in the peace deal that he cannot enforce a union on you. That's right. So he's currently fighting against Denmark for liberation, and he cannot. Remember, if you're fighting for independence, you have to enforce your independence. Well, the option is not there, meaning we can simply surrender to him. In this case, he is giving some of this land to Muscovy, but, you know, we never owned that land in the first place. It's not that big of a deal, and there you go. You can see that this works just fine. Maybe go ahead and re-establish some of your diplomacy and have a good game. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it benefited you. Have fun playing Gotland or any other nation. I'd love to see you live or in my next YouTube video.